Alright, so I set up a channel a while back, and I had intentions of releasing stuff onto it a little bit sooner than now, but I guess later's better than never. In short, life happens. It's just stuff. So, I don't know if anybody even watched the actual unboxing, but as in my description, as I had stated, this is going to be a channel about just random history of shit. And one of the things is it'll be on every kind of topic that comes to mind, especially things that we take for granted day in, day out. Especially like what's in our walls, what's in our houses. But at least for me today, I'm going to have it related something to a matter I enjoy. I mean, clearly I enjoy collecting Transformers. I mean, it's enjoyable. I like the engineering. I like what they're coming out with, especially as of recently, and especially with the advances in 3D printing today and how they're utilizing it. Truly fascinated by all of that and wanting to get into that 3D printing myself. But this is going to be a branch off video more so of the unboxing of the other two figures I had mentioned earlier, the Sky-Byte and the Skywarp, recently released by the Takara, Tomy, and Hasbro line that they got going on the Studio Series. Or, in Sky-Byte's case, more along the lines of the Age of the Primes is their newer line. But in short, Sky-Byte, I mean, every one of their names is associated with what they are. So, and then the game version, Skywarp. So overall, kind of review, kind of a mixed bag of things. Some slight history too, gonna pitch that in there. But realistically though, it's gonna be more so a comparison of other lines who've done the same style, or the much older lines which were done by hand to make the molds more so. In this instance, as far as the history is concerned, to those who don't know, Transformers is not original by any means. Instead, what Hasbro actually did, which Hasbro was obviously a company before Transformers was made, what they did was they took a Japanese concept known as Diaclone, which was made by Takara Tomy. And these are two individual companies, as they still are today. They're just working in conjunction right now with these newer lines and everything else going on. Which, I'm glad they did that, because Takara Tomy is the one who originally started all of these transforming toy, flipping, panels, changing, all of it. It all started with Diaclone. So the fun part about that is the only thing Hasbro provided was the storyline for Transformers. And this whole thing was just meant to sell toys, and they wanted to bring that concept on over. But for them to do that, they weren't robots like Diaclone were, because those were all basically transforming mech suits is really what they are. They never operated independently of themselves. They were always controlled by somebody. In Transformers version, they gave them the sentience. They also gave them the factions, and they also gave them all their names. All of the likeness was provided by Diaclone. Megatron, Optimus, all of those guys. But that is what actually leaves open the floodgates for basically copyright workarounds. So in short, Diaclone owns the likeness, Takara owns the likeness, Hasbro owns the names, the factions, and the storyline of Transformers. That's about it. So what it leaves the floodgates open for is a lot of third and fourth party releases of character likeness. So there's a ton of Optimus Primes out there made by many other different manufacturers. But they can't use the name, so they will often call him something else. My favorite so far is Warbitron. And then, secondly, they can't use the factions either, so it'll be a toy that looks exactly the same as what Hasbro has released, but without all the decals, without the name, but you know who it is. You clearly know who it is. Or my personal favorite so far is the character RC. Her third-party name is Cyber Succubus. So they get friggin' ridiculous with it. It's hilarious. That aside, Diaclone itself never made it over to the States because this is still kind of a fresher period after World War II, where realistically what opened up the gates for the exchanging of entertainment with Japan and US again was originally Godzilla. And Godzilla, in the beginning, the very first movie, was never, ever a means of protecting humanity. What Godzilla was a physical representation of the atom bomb. Massive, destructive, and his skin, his scales, they were even designed after the scabs you get from radiation burns. His actual spikes, all of that melted lookingness on his spikes, was actually that of the physical shape of radiation burns shortly after they happened. Godzilla is really the absolute culmination of a physical representation of what the atom bomb did to these people. A singular monster so massively destructive that it had no cares whatsoever about anything under its wake. That is what Godzilla really was in the beginning. So -1, the newer release, the actual reboot of the first one, loved it. Absolutely fantastic. And even to have the kamikaze World War II planes involved in it too was even more of a, I don't want to say nostalgia, but a nice history lesson. Because in World War II, some of those planes were designed to look like they were going backwards, so that way the enemy did not think they were heading towards them. It was a distraction, basically. A misdirection. But that's just a little bit of like the overall Transformers history that came to be. And that's kind of why I'm busting out the 20-year-old one, because the advancements are fantastic, but I can still appreciate the older hand-done items. They were still pretty good for their time, albeit some of the later lines, like Beast Wars, they really lost it in translations, because a lot of those original characters, their sculpts do not look anything like the actual cartoon itself. And not for lack of trying, but I digress anyway. So, again, today, on the other hand, is about Mr. Sky-Byte here and Skywarp. At least to start off, Sky-Byte himself, all he is realistically is a repainted version of an earlier good guy character, Maximal, known as Cybershark. I know, original, but you know, that one's always funny to me. It's always named after what they are, kinda. But in short, one thing I can be impressed by is their detail got so much better over time with the introduction of 3D printers. Because this is the newer one. Like the cybernetics and everything, because he's supposed to look like a robot shark deal going on. And then he's got like the hand fin cannon going on, or claw, rather. But that is Sky-Byte, and for the most part, I've really been enjoying it because, I mean, his joints are tight, the detail's fantastic, the opposability is amazing with all of the newer ones, makes it easier to keep them standing, they don't fall like dominoes so easily, and overall, just, I remember seeing not long ago somebody saying, is it bad that I'm only just now getting into Transformers? And I came up with a simple reply of, no, not really, because they are by far the best they have ever been since as long as I can find out. Because in this collection, I've got some from the original 80s and one or two still in boxes. That's older than me. And there's the very clear difference in engineering. But hey, everybody's got to start from somewhere. So, Sky-Byte. But like I said, he's based off of a more original character of Cybershark. This is the 20-year-old one. This was released back in 96. So let's see here. Almost 20 years old. No. 96? That almost makes this guy 30 years old. But, I mean, you can see a little wear and tear. Obviously, his arm is a little loose. Simple fix. But hey, for almost 30 years, I am not mad at it. But in the meantime, the other part is they at least gave his hand, his little claw here, his little fin claw here, more capability, because back when it was pretty tight and everything was working, the gears in here actually allowed it to spin. It's actually what this was. Unfortunately, I think one of my springs went out and needs to be replaced, or else it would continue spinning. But also, they did kind of go less, how do I put it, less gimmicky on the newer ones. So it's just now like a straight 3D print. There's not really anything more involved than that. And even the missiles themselves are just simply a detail. They are not a launchable missile like the old ones love to do. But still though, for the time, not bad, considering he was a hand sculpt mold. However, what I appreciated though was the metallic paints, because that's when they were trying to get real big into mutating bots, and they came out with the Transmittal 2. So they started giving them crystals with their insignias in it. And that was your Beast Wars line as they evolved over the series. He wasn't in the series itself, except for the comics, but in the series itself, he was just simply an additional released along with the rest of the lines, because, you know, that's what Hasbro's deal was. They wanted to sell toys above all else, even for the sake of sacrificing continuity in their stories, which I appreciate the imagination in them, but they could have certainly done a lot better, and really could have had fantastic arcs going on, especially when it started involving human history in them. And they could have such better arcs instead of just, okay, well, sales are dipping, let's kill off everybody and start a new line. Doesn't matter how they die, just kill them. That's basically what happened.